electric little hair thing for the back of the camera. Yep. Over there.
See the statue in back of you? Do you have any idea who that guy is?
You're right in the picture.
Okay, let's move just a little bit over here. Okay, you see the statue over there? The guy's name's Samuel Cox? Do you have any idea who he is?
I've been seeing for the past 30 years.
What was that?
I've been seeing for the past 30 years, but I don't know. I never looked into it.
Huh, what do you think he might be?
He's
Important, I guess.
Okay, I'm waiting for you to tell me. Okay. Just over here?
A little bit closer, that way.
No.
Yeah, no.
Right over here. Perfect. Okay, look right at me. You see that guy over here?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any idea who he is?
No, I really don't, and I never even asked or even thought about it.
What do you think he might be? You gotta look at me then.
I don't know, maybe he's the one that created the park or something. I don't know.
What was that?
That maybe he's the one that made the park over here. Right? It should be. The statue was there. It must be many, many years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I never really thought about that.
Okay, I think the notion of having them look at the statue is good, but as soon as they look, they're probably going to stay looking. So what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, the thing over here. Do what? I'm going to ask you just one question about the park. All right. You're going to stand right over here. All right.
Back pull.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you see the statue in back of you?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea who that guy is?
That's, well, it says Samuel S. Cox right there.
Who is he?
Who is he? Geez, I'd be guessing.
Yes.
All right.
Don't read it though.
No, I'm not reading. I'm looking to see how he's dressed. I don't know. I'd say he's probably a politician from the 1800s. He looks like a politician.
Why do you think there's a statue there for?
Well, usually when you kill a lot of people, they make a statue for you. So maybe he was a soldier. Usually, the more people you kill, the bigger the statue is.
Do you think it's odd that you have these statues all over the place and people don't know who they are?
Well, they're not for the people. They're for the pigeons.
What was that?
Everybody knows that. They're not for the people. They're for the pigeons.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Actually, neither. I don't get involved in the country's political system. I don't vote like that.
Why?
I think voting is an overrated activity. Well, anybody whose life is so screwed up that they think some politician in Washington can make it any better has to realize that he's got to make his life better himself. He can't count on a politician to do it for him. You know, and presidents come and go and everything stays the same, so what does it really matter who gets elected? Nothing ever changes. It's always the same. They're all the same.
Do you think Samuel Cox is glad that he's got a statue over here?
Well, probably his descendants probably are, if he's got any around. I know the pigeons are glad.
That's great. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Good luck finding the shoot.
So what is this for?
It's for... Yeah. Okay, Andy, am I not in the shot now?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay.
Louis, you're in. Out. Okay.
You see the guy in back of you over here?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea who this guy is?
Samuel Cox is? No. I've lived here a long time, never read it. Don't know who he is.
Never wondered? Don't read it then. Well, if you had to guess who he was, who would you think he might be?
Well, he's probably some sort of politician in the city. But I don't know. I don't know why I never looked.
Why would you think he was a politician?
Because usually statues are either literary heroes in the United States or politicians or generals or something like that, military figures.
Well, if I asked people up and down over here and I asked most people who Samuel Cox was, do you think most people would have any idea?
I'd say probably not.
Why do you think nobody knows who he is?
Well, I think most people who live around here, when you live a place, you tend to walk past things and not pay any attention. That might be one reason. Another reason is
Louis?
People aren't very good with history in the United States, I think. And I shouldn't have an excuse because I studied history, but I don't know who he is.
Is there anything by looking at him that would make you think he was a politician?
Yeah, his stance, like he's giving some sort of speech or lecture or something.
Why do you think there's a statue of him?
Well, again, I mean, I wouldn't know unless I know who he is. But I would say he must have something probably to do with New York City and maybe New York City politics or New York State politics. That's what I would guess.
Can I ask you one last question?
Sure.
Are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Well, I'm a registered Democrat because you have to be in order to vote in primaries. But I've never voted Republican, but I wouldn't necessarily vote Democrat either.
Well, can you complete a sentence for me? I want you to say, I'm a Democrat because, and finish the sentence. With some sort of passion or feeling. So,
Passion or feeling?
Yeah.
I don't feel passionate about being a Democrat. I'd say I'm a Democrat because in this country it's a two-party system, and in order to vote in primaries, in most states anyway, New York State, you have to be a member of that party in order to vote.
is there another reason to be a Democrat?
No, not really. I don't think so anymore. I used to when I was a little more idealistic, less cynical.
Are you cynical about politics now?
Cynical but hopeful.
Thanks.
If that makes sense.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Can we ask you that? Actually, that's what we're looking for. And I think you guys,
I'll let you ask her.
But when is it going to be on?
probably in October.
Terry, you have to do this. I swear if you don't.
How about two of you? Two of you.
Yeah, actually, it'd be better.
Come on, over here.
I think
Come on, come
It's
on.
fine. But what? Wait a second. What's the name of the program?
It's called Vote for Me, Politics in America. Okay, now.
I'm really not.
Terry, no, I'm not going to do it unless you do.
Come on.
Come on, guys. We've been stopping people all day.
So, who is this guy back here?
We have no idea.
What's that?
We have no idea.
Why do you think there's a statue there?
I'm sure it's relevant to the location, but I don't know.
What, I mean, what kind of a person do you think you would be?
I've actually never looked at it, to tell you the truth.
Well, looking at it right now, without looking at the nameplate,
Okay, so he was in Congress.
you got to turn to us. No, don't look at that.
But he was in Congress, he says.
I don't know.
When you actually notice
Looks
statues
like
like
a
this,
cemetery, maybe.
what's that?
It's like a memorial, huh? It's maybe he's buried under there. Maybe he's under there.
That would be cool. Although
Well, look at his
really
pose.
color.
Get off the
He's sort of on a, he's making a speech of some sort, making a point.
Standing by a lovely tree.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't figure it out, really.
Well, from his pose, would you know he was a politician?
Well, I mean, now that I've read that he's service in Congress, yeah, I guess that would be my next guess, but
He doesn't look very happy. We're friendly.
Why do you think a statue of him is here? Or why do you think a statue of him would be here?
Maybe he gave money to have the park set aside. I don't know.
you know, he's a letter carrier's friend, it says.
Maybe is he the founder of the post office? I don't think so.
I'm sorry, Flappy, but hey, we'll hang together, shall we? We can do that, you know.
Well,
You know,
I suppose.
I can't imagine this being any sort of luxury residence for anyone, so I think he's out of place.
We don't know, but I'm hungry.
We're on our way to eat now.
Can I ask one very good question, okay?
Go ahead.
Are you guys Republicans or Democrats?
Independent.
Democrat.
Democrat? Okay, can you look at me and just say, I'm a Democrat because, and tell me why?
Well, this year I'm a
So
Democrat.
start by saying I'm a Democrat.
Oh, that's why do you have to say
I don't know if I want to say
I don't
that.
like
Oh,
that idea.
okay, well then tell me how you would answer the question, sorry.
Well, you know, I voted for Clinton. You know, I voted for. Actually, it's my disgust with Dole. I just don't believe in Dole and what he stands for and what he's been doing.
So is there anything in particular about Democrats that appeal to you?
In particular, I hated Reagan and what happened during the Reagan era, and that as much informed me.
But nothing positive in terms of it's all just disliking.
Well, you know, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, I think that there's an effort, even in healthcare and things like that, that the Democrats have been trying to do, and I don't know whether they went about it the right way, but you know, there are things that are happening that I sort of want, you know, for the nation as a whole, and that's.
Okay.
Why you said you were an independent?
Yeah?
I'll say why you're an independent. I'm an independent because.
She won't say that.
No?
No, I don't want to say that.
Okay.
I don't know. Political views.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, he's letter carrier.
Hey, Robert Bavarian, all right.
You're the first guy who knew that.
You're the only
You're the
person
first
who
guy
knew
who
that.
knows that.
Well, I've been looking at that statue for 20 years. You've been looking at that statue?
Yeah, right. The letter carrier thread.
I've been looking at it for 20 years. It kind of gets to you after about 20 years.
Sure. Can I stand you right over here?
Okay.
Just right there.
Good.
And let me get underneath over here.
Is my makeup right?
You look fabulous.
Thanks. What's up?
You see the guy in back of you over here? Don't read his plaque, but look at his face. Now turn back to us. Who is Samuel Cox?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Let's see, how long have I lived here? 72, 14 years, 24 years? And I have no idea who that guy is.
We're just looking at him. Who do you think he might be? From that pose and everything. Don't read the plaque.
Okay. Probably a politician. Right?
Why do you think?
Survey says.
Why do you think so? Why do you think that?
Because he's got that political kind of look on him. He's standing there pointing his finger at people, and you know, he's trying to make a point. Politicians always are trying to make a point. Politics. I heard somebody say before the dual party system. I think the country needs one party. We're all Americans. Why have two parties? Make the presidency 6 years, one term. No bullshit as far as trying to get himself reelected. 1 6-year term. Make everybody happy. 6 years, he knows he's got a job to do. Get it done and get out. Let somebody else go in and get the job done. Single party, I don't agree in dual parties. I don't agree in multi-parties because, like I just said, we're all one party, one people.
Why do you think there's a statue to a guy that nobody knows who he is here?
There's a lot of statues in New York. People don't know who they are. I really don't know. He must have done something. What did he do? Tell me. You don't know either. Okay, that's good. That's good.
That's great. Thank you very much.
All right, you guys have a good day.
Stand you right over here, right up against.
What is the question?
It's going to be about the park. It's going to be about the statue.
Oh, I don't know anything about it. I'm sorry.
That's actually what we're asking people about. It's about how people don't know about most of the statues that memorialize people.
Oh, okay.
Real easy one. Can I just stand you right over here?
Yes.
Let me get over here. Ah! You see the statue back of you? Do you have any idea who this guy is?
No. I'd have to read it, you know, the plaque.
We're just looking. Don't look at the plaque, but look at his face, and then look back down. Don't look at the plaque. Who do you think he might be, just by the way he looks?
I don't know. I would say that he lived about the time of the Civil War, but I don't know who he would be.
If you had to guess what his profession was, what would you think?
Well, evidently he's speaking to somebody.
So what kind of person would be speaking to somebody in a public space?
Be a teacher or a minister.
And everybody we talk to over here, nobody knows who this guy Samuel Cox is. Why didn't there be a statue to somebody that nobody knows?
Well, evidently he was a contributor to the community.
Okay. Can I ask you one really other quick question? Are you a Republican or a Democrat?
I don't vote.
How come?
I just don't. I do occasionally, I vote, but I haven't decided, you know, who I'm going to vote for this year yet.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Hello.
Tell me what it is before.
It's about the statue.
Hello. Look at that big camera. Look at that big camera. Look at that big camera.
Just one quick question.
Baba.
What is the question?
What's it going to be about who this person is?
I don't know who it is.
Okay.
Hello.
Who is Samuel Cox?
Who is Samuel
Who is
Cox?
Samuel Cox? Is he a politician?
He loves to be Ah, would you? That's funny.
How about this guy with the tennis racket coming on?
That's funny.
Right over here. Get you and the statue in the same shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're looking back...
Actually, before you start this,
Yes?
identify yourself a little bit better. What are you,
There's a series for public television that'll be on October about politics called Vote for Me, Politics in America. We're 3 filmmakers from New York.
Okay.
Now, we have a statue in back of you over here. Don't read the plaque, but if you look at that guy's face, do you have any idea who this guy is, or who he might be, or what he would be?
I'm not familiar with him.
If you had to guess who he was, or what his profession was, what would you think?
He looks like a politician, maybe?
How come?
I don't know, maybe he's making a speech?
And you've never heard of Samuel Cox at all?
Not offhand. Certainly, the surname Cox isn't uncommon.
Okay, thanks very much.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Do it right if we find we need it.
What's that?
So you cable TV?
Or regular TV?
Channel 17?
13. Probably true. I'm not sure where you did. I thought you hadn't died. I got that. Yeah, but that's what's funny about it.
Well, yeah, but it's still, it ain't that great. It's like it's a nice characters, but it's not. It's actually much more memorable characters for the most part are necessary. This is sort of much more, instead of this is sort of much more like, really feel like, you know, guys sitting around. Yeah, but that's, hey, we would do the same thing. Editorial decision, just like the interviews, in fact, all that. It's fine, it works fine. Filming. No, I mean, I think God back then. Anyway, never say no.
If you have something particularly great to say, if you're looking at the statue at that moment, we probably won't be able to hear you because the mic's on this side.
Right, I understand.
So looking at the statue when you...
Let me look at it for a moment then.
But you can look during the thing as well. Just whenever you have something good to say, come back to us. As a matter of fact, looking during it is fantastic. So remember that spontaneous moment.
I want you to sort of be an art historian before I got kicked out of the academic community. I said I used to be an art historian before I got kicked out of the academic.
Well, you have a real job now.
That's right. We just did a restoration of the Worth Monument last year.
Who is this guy? Why don't you look at him and then come back and tell us who this guy is?
Well, who is this guy? That's the question. I suppose the thing that most people know him for is Seward's Folly, which is his negotiation of the purchase of Alaska for about $7 million while he was Secretary of State under Lincoln. And I think that's sort of like a set kind of fact that people learn in high school and American history class, and beyond that, I suppose they wouldn't know much about Seward, nor would I, for that matter.
What are the basics? By name, say this is William Seward.
William Seward. This is a sculpture of William Seward. It is, I believe, the first sculpture in our New York City Parks collection that represented somebody who was from New York. So it's locally based in that sense. He was governor of the state.
Start off by saying begin with William Seward was governor, senator.
Yeah, William Seward was.
Tell us what I wanted to do is his name. Sorry, Andy. This guy was important at his time and what he was.
Oh, absolutely.
So William Seward.
And we live with William Seward was governor of the state. He was a defense attorney who worked on very significant free speech cases and cases relating to defending those charged with criminal offenses, aiding fugitives from slavery. He was an abolitionist. He was a United States Senator. And lastly, he served as Secretary of State for 2 terms under President Lincoln. And it's perhaps in that capacity that he showed the achievement for which he's best remembered, which is the purchase of Alaska, later the state of Alaska. It was called Seward's Folly, though, at the time, and was seen really as an outrageous play on his part. Earlier, he was a governor for 2 terms, I believe, and I think toward the end of his second term, there was a certain amount of controversy over certain public works projects relating to the expansion and enlargement of the Erie Canal. Oh, absolutely. He defended the newspaper published.
Tell us that he was an important guy. Okay, we don't use these questions.
All right. All right.
William Seward was.
William. The prominence of this location would lead you to believe that, and indeed Seward was a very important public figure in his time, serving largely in the public sector as a senator, as a governor, as a Secretary of State, and in fact, in the 1860 presidential election, I believe, in the first ballot for the Republican nomination, he outpolled Abraham Lincoln. So clearly he was a figure of national prominence, but also of local prominence coming from New York, his home state. He merits then an extraordinarily significant placement here in our sculpture collection at the intersection of 5th Avenue and 23rd Street, opposite the famous Flatiron building, which of course postdates the sculpture. I believe it's the first sculpture to a native New Yorker placed in New York City anywhere. So he was then a figure of local importance who made an impact on the national scene and on the development of United States history.
Okay, that's great. Now, even though you think people might know Seward's Folly, you know and I know how many people actually had any idea who this guy is. You know he was incredibly important. I know he was almost president of the United States. How many people walking by here know anything about him?
Oh, I suppose many people walking by would know very little about Seward and his accomplishments, although it does state on the base the generalities of his major positions in public life. Beyond that, most of us, even those who have studied American history, might only remember him for a few of those accomplishments. I think those of a certain education, I know I went to public schools in this country and learned of Seward's Folly. I remember that acquisition of Alaska, that attribute of his public life from high school days. That's a good 20 years behind me now. But certainly, as with this sculpture and with many of our sculptures, the identity of the subject is probably little known to the average pedestrian. Now that cuts both ways. In one sense, then, the sculpture is not doing its job in that it, on the other hand, the sculpture is the last vestige and a permanent reminder. That's what monuments are all about, to remind people of those accomplishments. So he was, of course, very famous in his time. We erect sculptures in this day and age to people who are very famous in our time, who may be little known later, and that the sculpture or the monument is the way in which we in fact perpetuate that memory. A sculpture is not a textbook. It's ultimately a work of art in a public arena. And in some sense, it's fine too that if you don't know who he is, in some sense you can project then upon that sculptural image your own imagination as to who that person might be. You certainly would be able to tell by the grandeur of this piece and its prominent location that it was somebody of importance, but you might not know what they did. It might lead you to go to a textbook or a library, knowing the name at least of the subject, and do further research. And in fact, I receive every day of the year phone calls, letters, 5 to 10 a day, from citizens inquiring about the identity of sculptures and so forth. We have placed identification tablets at some locations, but again, it's not an outdoor museum in quite the same sense. It's not a textbook, the sculptural collection, and so it serves a different purpose. It's sort of the physical embodiment of the person, and that embodiment represents the deeds and the impact that that person had on society as a whole.
Great. Yeah. Just wait for the back.
Okay, you give me a high sign or something.
Okay. You gotta wait for these guys. Shouldn't do that. That's just current. Okay, go ahead.
William Seward was governor of the state of New York. He was a United States Senator from New York. He outpolled Abraham Lincoln in the first ballot on the 1860 presidential Republican nomination. He was Secretary of State for 2 terms under Lincoln and negotiated the purchase of Alaska.
Hang on a second. Yeah. Okay.
William H. Seward was a governor from the New York State. He was a United States Senator. He outpolled Abraham Lincoln for the Republican nomination on the first ballot during the presidential election of 1860. He was a significant defense attorney, and he was Secretary of State for 2 terms under President Lincoln, during which time he negotiated the purchase of Alaska.
One more time because you're governor of New York.
Right.
A little bit.
Right.
So, Andy, right? Okay, good. Wait a second. Okay, go ahead. Go.
William H. Seward was governor of New York State. He was a senator from New York State. He outpolled Abraham Lincoln on the first ballot for the Republican nomination during the presidential elections of 1860. He was Secretary of State for 2 terms under President Lincoln, during which time he negotiated the purchase of Alaska.
Great.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm Jonathan Kuhn, Director of Art and Antiquities with the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. And in that capacity, I oversee the public monuments collection in New York City parks. Yeah.
Okay, if you can say, introduce yourself again.
Okay.
And then say, in back of me is the statue of William Seward.
Right.
He was governor of New York.
Right. Got it.
And, just combine the 2 things.
I'm Jonathan.
Okay, John.
I'm Jonathan Kuhn, Director of Art and Antiquities with the Department of Parks and Recreation for New York City. Behind me is a sculpture in bronze of William H. Seward. He was governor of the state of New York, United States State Senator. He was... Yes.
Again. Okay, move back a little bit. We're moving into...
All right. Take 3.
This is why Mel Gibson gets paid a lot of money.
Right. Actually, he does more tanks.
Okay.
I'm Jonathan Kuhn, Director of Art and Antiquities with the Department of Parks and Recreation for New York City. Behind me is the bronze sculpture of William H. Seward, who served as governor of New York, United States Senator. He was a prominent defense attorney during his days in private life. He ran for the Republican nomination for president in 1860 and outpolled Abraham Lincoln on the first ballot. He later served as Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State for 2 terms, and during that time, he negotiated the purchase of Alaska.
That was great.
Right.
Okay.
Gosh. Okay. In the city of New York, we have 1,700 monument sites in our parks, about 300 life-size sculptures, and many of the identities of these people, personages and historical figures, are probably little known to us today. In most cases, the subject was very prominent in its time, and in many cases, the sculptures were erected not long after the death, for instance, in the instance here, William H. Seward. But over time, those facts of their lives and their events and their deeds and their accomplishments diminish in our memory, and in some sense the sculpture is the only vestige of that life that they led. Often there are figures which began with a local basis in New York City and then achieved impact on the national scene.
Okay.